Hello, welcome to Spirit of Life. I'm David McLauchlan. I'm the producer of Spirit of Life and I'll be the host for this episode. And my guest is Norm Currie, also one of the hosts of Spirit of Life and another of my programs on Channel 31, Harmony University. Hello Norm.
Hi David.
Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
First of all, tell me about your background and your particular faith journey.
Yeah, thanks David. My faith journey, yeah, because it goes back a fair way. I'm older than I look, but I suppose it starts right back when I was a school kid, and my family were Presbyterians, sort of. Weren't particularly devout, but I had Sunday school and all those sorts of things, so I knew all that side of it, and I knew enough about the Bible from a childlike perspective. And it never really featured that much in my life, I guess, but spirituality did. I was always aware that there was something greater, far greater, and because of my early experience as a child in the church, that other was Jesus. Jesus was always there, and has been a silver thread which has run through my experience really. But in those days it was something which I was always comfortable, always felt comfortable. Never ever suffered a lot of fear, because to me there was always something bigger was actually looking after me. I've always felt looked after. And that was like Jesus, without there being a strict image of Jesus which has been driven by ritual or whatever, nothing, because I wasn't involved in the church at that sort of level, but there was always something standing beside me. I felt empowered then, and I feel empowered in the same way now. So I got married, I did all the things that you do, several times actually, and one was a religious marriage, one wasn't. Didn't make much difference, because I wasn't attached to that part of life. It didn't appeal to me really. But the spiritual side did. It's never left me. So here I am with this spiritual awareness, this little box, or big box perhaps, with actually nothing much in it. I knew the box was there, but I didn't have the material to put in it. It was just the comfort of knowing it was there and feeling protected within that box. There was whatever it was made of, it was protecting me. I felt empowered by it, never at risk. And I went through lots and lots of different things. I was in the services and I've had lots of stuff happen to me. But at no time have I really felt at risk, because of this somewhat vague but real sense of you are not all there is. There's more, there's much more. And being able to look out and just see life as it is. I then took to reading scriptures, spiritual scriptures of all the major religions actually. The first one I read cover to cover. I'd read the Bible cover to cover several times when I was quite young. Once again, not because I was going to church to do all the things you do around the biblical practice, etc., but because the story was sort of telling something to me. And part of what the story was telling to me was that out of the Old Testament and more focused in the New Testament was this allusion to this other, this allusion to this greater, which was named in the Bible, as God, of course. And I guess that's the name that I've always carried with it, is to call it God, but it depends what religion you adhere to as to what you actually call it. But the feeling was there really strongly. And the silver thread of Jesus, and the Jesus being the love of Jesus, which kept coming to me from my reading of the Bible. And so I became attached to Bibles that have the actual words of Jesus in red because I really wanted to identify with what was it that Jesus actually said. And as that evolved too, I started to feel this affinity with the silver thread again of running through. Now, what I then did was I then started to read from the scriptures of other religions. So the Hindu, the Islamic, the Buddhist, the Sikh, on and on. I went with this stuff. And I became aware, because although I was seeking something, I was never quite sure what it was. However, what I did determine was that there is the silver thread of Jesus actually is woven through all of it, without making any judgment about the actual theology of any of the religions. In fact, divesting yourself of that and just looking at the central essence of it, I was prepared to see that as this silver thread of Jesus' love, really, really powerfully.
So essentially, what you discovered is that God is love.
That was the outcome for me, yes, was to, and quite powerfully so, actually. In fact, it was a physical experience I had of reading those over a period of time till this particular day. And I read excerpts from each of the texts, and there were 7 of them. And as I read them, one by one, I started to get this rising feeling of elation and realization, until when I read the last of them, there was completely just an illumination happening within me, and a voice speaking to me saying, I'm God, I'm love, and I'm everywhere.
On that note, we have to go for a break. You're watching Spirit of Life. Join us again after the break. Welcome back to Spirit of Life. I'm Dave McLauchlan, and my guest is Norm Currie. Now, Norm, tell me about how you got involved with another of my programs, Harmony in Diversity.
Yes, Harmony in Diversity. A lot of beautiful memories attached to Harmony in Diversity. Because of the pathway that I mentioned earlier of reading the scriptures of the other religions, I became aware of the need, what I perceived as a need, for greater understanding of the other religions, because of my conviction that the silver thread of Jesus runs through them all. So when Harmony and Diversity arose the opportunity to do that, it was manna from heaven, figuratively. Manna from heaven, because it allowed me to actually speak with the priests and the practitioners of these particular religions, many of them, over that 7-year period. There were many, many people we interviewed. And it felt as though it was such a logical thing to do, is to be able to sit and talk with these people. But once again, the secret purpose for myself was actually to draw from them, wherever I could, reflection of the silver thread of Jesus, being manifest as love itself. And that was very gratifying, because there was not one person that we interviewed, and we did everybody, including Wicca practitioners as well. There was not one place where there wasn't a comfort with the fact that, yes, there was this, let's call it, silver thread of love, because if you call it the silver thread of Jesus, it starts to sound like it's proselytization, and you will get people's back up, in other words, because they think you're trying to convince them of something they maybe don't know or don't want to know. But by just referring to it as love, but in myself, always seeing that the greatest manifestation of God's love is in fact Christ. And so when you put it in the context of all the other religions, Christ takes on another dimension, a cosmic dimension, so that it becomes all-embracing, very, very powerful. And even now, I have a physical response to that when I say it, because it really holds within it. It holds within the palm of that concept a lot of peace, a lot of compassion, a lot of understanding, a lot of connectedness. And that's what the world needs now, and always will need. And so that's the exciting thing about following this pathway, which eventually I became a Catholic. And the interesting thing was that I'd fallen into some sort of a pattern or other. I don't know how it happened, through friends and associates, I guess. I started going to Mass. And I went to an old priest, speak to an old priest who said, do you believe in Jesus? Yes. And do you believe that in the communion you are engaging with Jesus? And I said, well, yes, actually I do. He said, well, why don't you take it? So here I was breaking the rules, the Catholic rules. I was breaking them. But I became very attached to the host. And the host taking the host became a very spiritual process for me. Whilst I was holding the host, I was engaging with something far greater than what was in the room or what had been said in the Mass. So the Mass wasn't the important thing, because I knew about the Bible, I knew about the others, and this was when I held the host. I was holding a cosmic reality of Christ was in my fingers. But then something happened. I realized that the people who were present in the church, and the priest particularly, who wasn't the one who told me to take it, so he thought I was a Catholic. So here I am doing this, and they think I'm a Catholic. I felt really bad about that. So I said to myself, no, I won't do it anymore, won't have my host in it, won't take the host anymore. And in that conversation with myself, I broke into the most convulsive outpouring of tears, because I'd become attached to this engagement with the divine essence as I perceive it, and we all have our own perception. I was not going to do that anymore. I couldn't. I had to do it. So I then went through the 6-month progress, or whatever it's called. I can't remember what it's called now, but
the RCIA.
Yes, so I did the RCIA. And so then I could honourably go to any Catholic church and take communion.
And what you found in that was what we as Catholics call the real presence.
Yeah, absolutely. The real presence, without there being any heavy religiosity behind it. This was bigger than that. This was something which was akin to me being knocked off the chair from reading those multiple scriptures across the religions.
On that note, we have to go for another break.
Okay.
You're watching Spirit of Life. Join us again after the break. Hello, welcome back to Spirit of Life. I'm Dave McLauchlan and my guest is Norm Currie. Norm, we've been talking about your own progression of faith, and something you've been doing lately that sprang out of Harmony University is a project called Love Dialogues.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that.
Yes, Love Dialogues has been, as you point out, a natural evolution, really. And what it grew from is the fact that there was once again, coming back to the multiple scriptures, it always offended me, or troubled me more than offended me, that there seemed to be this invisible wall between them. They were at the bottom line. The silver thread of Jesus ran through them all, but there was a wall between them which denied that. But the love was there. So Love Dialogues, as the name implies, it's about communication, it's about speaking, it's about talking to one another, was to say, let's look at focusing on love alone. So when we talk to someone, and this is where the interviews which happen within Love Dialogues, it's about, let's talk about love. So it gets applied, in fact, I apply it to married couples. And what the introduction when I'm speaking to a married couple is to say to them, this is not about saving your marriage. This is actually about saving your love so that you can be love to others. It's all about your love. So if your marriage doesn't work after this, you part loving one another, not hating one another. And that seemed to me, because this is across multiple religions that I do this stuff. And
because you're a marriage celibate.
Yes, I am a celibate. So I put them in that place, so I feel as though it's my duty to help them.
So you conduct marriage ceremonies for all different
couples
of different faiths.
Different faiths, yes. So
a civil celibate.
As a civil celibate, yeah, that's right. And it's very interesting, because a civil celibate normally they have no religious or spiritual component in it at all. But the ones that I do, I insist on there being that, not spiritual, but an acknowledgement, a greater acknowledgement of love than what would normally be the case in a civil ceremony. And so when you come back to people who are in marriage and in trouble, or in trouble in any way, really. I've worked with drug-addicted people as well. And it's really a matter of taking the person back to the silver thread of Jesus, which runs through the heart of all beingness, actually, but certainly through the hearts of all of humanity. And if you can gently bring this person to recognize and realize that we are all threaded on this one thread which goes through us all and then back to the heart of God and is knotted in the heart of God. So we all are part of this one unity. And So love dialogues is meant, the name itself is meant to encourage people to take love as the foundation under which underpins the whole of their life. Nothing escapes it. That you come back, I am on the silver thread of Jesus through my heart, which goes through the heart of that person there who I either am fighting with, which I shouldn't be, or I'm loving for the wrong reasons, or I'm hating. It, to me, and I say this in the humblest possible way, is that I try to take it to the fact that Jesus actually only ever had one thing to say. Love one another as I have loved you. And love your Father, God your Father, above all else. And your neighbours as yourself. It's pretty plain. And it gets buried under all sorts of verbiage, etc. But that's the essential point. And by recognising that the silver thread of Jesus runs through, in my experience, all of the scriptures, all of the deep philosophies, of many of which I'm familiar with as well. If you look for it, it's like a cable. It's not like a silver thread. It's like a cable which is surrounded by human ideas and concepts, which buries it. So the love dialogues is meant to say, okay, let's not muck around here. The premise upon which we live and express ourselves and receive each other is love, unconditional love, which then opens another of Pandora's many boxes, because unconditional love really means just that, loving other above self. If you come back to the confidence, it fills you with immense confidence and certainty, which is I've been fortunate enough to have access to from my childhood. And so through harmony and diversity and through love dialogue, I come to the point now of just having this absolute certainty in Jesus, as I said, in a cosmic context of enveloping and holding everything.
On that note, we've run out of time for the program, so thank you very much for being interviewed, Norm.
Thanks for the opportunity, David.
You've been watching Spirit of Life. Join us again next week. Bye for now.
Bring it to birth and blow where you will. Blow, blow, blow till I be but breath of the Spirit.